How long until we reach Nova Atar, Ensign?
About 23 hours, Captain.
22 hours, 53 minutes, and 17 seconds to be precise.
Spock, there's no need to be precise. We're going on shore leave. Rest, relaxation, no calls from Starfleet.
Captain, we have a message coming in from Admiral Richards at Starfleet.
On screen, Lieutenant.
Hello, Jim. I know you're going on shore leave, but...
What is it, Chris?
Well, since you're going there anyway, and it's only a small favor...
Favor?
I don't want to inconvenience you, but...
Fine, you have it. What would you like me to do?
We recently discovered that one of the exhibits in the Smithsonian Annex at Nova Atar is of great historical significance to the Soransi, an influential family from planet Lakian. The museum is going to have a small ceremony to return the item. The Federation planned to send a representative, but, well, she couldn't make it. Since you'll be in the neighborhood, well, no dress uniforms. All you have to do is smile and shake hands.
Smile, shake hands. It would be my pleasure, Admiral. My chief engineer had already promised to show me around. We'll be there.
Thanks, Jim. I owe you one. Check your data files for details. Oh, one more thing, Jim. Due to the security concerns, you won't be allowed to bring any electronic equipment with you. Richards out.
Now, I was saying...
Captain, do we really have to stand around and listen to speeches from a bunch of politicians?
It won't be all bad, Scotty. The curator's a major cognac producer, and he asked us to show up early to thank us for our support.
Captain, it'd be rude to keep a man like the curator waiting, what with an important diplomatic function to prepare for.
We've arrived at Nova Atar, Captain.
Bring us into standard orbit, Mr. Sulu.
Aye, Captain.
We are at Nova Atar.
Curator Brezhnev bids you to beam down at your pleasure.
Mr. Scott, Mr. Chekhov, come with me. Mr. Spock, you have the con.
Captain Kirk, good to meet you. I am Boris Brezhnev, curator of the museum. Everyone is buzzing about visitors from the Enterprise. A real feather in my cap.
The pleasure is ours, sir. This is my chief engineer, Mr. Scott, and Ensign Chekhov, our navigator.
Most pleased to meet you both. Chekhov, a fine name. I'm certain you will be interested in sampling the Kazakhstani cognac, distilled and blended by my family. In fact, I will later show you my most prized possession, a bottle of our finest vintage, aged 40 years from our very first press.
But isn't cognac French?
Originally, Mr. Scott. But before my ancestors came to settle this planet, they went to Cognac and purchased cuttings, brought them here, and made enhancements. You could say we reinvented Cognac. I do not wish to be rude, but you gentlemen are a bit early, and I must see to making certain the cleaning crews are finished working. Please, feel free to look about a bit. I will page you later, and maybe you will join me in a small toast before the ceremonies. Yes?
It would be our pleasure, curator.
I told you we invented it.
Maybe we were a little hard on you, laddie.
Never doubted you for a second, Mr. Chekhov. Now let's take advantage of this time and look around.
You know, this is a fine place, Captain. We'll have to come here for shore leave more often.
I imagine this is how you decorate your home, Mr. Scott.
Aye, Captain. But I'd leave all the parts in. Most of this has been gutted.
Maybe they'll display a piece of the Enterprise here someday, Captain.
Maybe they will, Mr. Chekhov.
They'd better not. Taking a piece out of that grand lady would be like cutting the head from the statue of the Antares Maiden and putting that on display.
Interesting analogy, Mr. Scott. But you have to admit that someday even the Enterprise will be put into dry dock.
He will not.
I think we'll agree with Mr. Scott on this one, don't you think, Mr. Chekhov?
Yes, Captain.
The plaque reads, an old ground-based phaser cannon model B-17, the real equalizer, rescued from a Federation scrapyard, probably based on the frontier near Nelapur. This phaser cannon no longer possesses any of its focusing or targeting equipment. The large capacitors in the base allowed a variety of power sources to be used to energize the cannon and gave the real equalizer considerable flexibility in use. The plaque reads, the Niven, non-integrated Vulcan electronumerator, was one of the earliest versions of a Vulcan computer. Some of the components were found to only function correctly at high temperatures. Since the focus in those early days was on computational effectiveness and not user-friendliness, the operator could not stand near the Niven during its operation. Input to the machine was cabled in from a separate device, hence it was a non-integrated computer. Lights cascade continually above the surface of this device. Plaques on each side read, the Vandecourt Aurora generator was donated to this museum by Sir William Loudon. Originally, a university experiment designed to test broadcast power as both a containment system and photostimulation for possible use in a propulsion system, the unit was presented as a gift to Loudon, who liked the way it looked and had recently donated a significant sum to the university. The Klingon console looks operational, but without a ship attached, it's hard to tell. Written on the plaque, this is a control console from a Klingon warbird, the Klarg, which was salvaged from the battle wreckage near Crimmins 8.
Think you could make that work, Mr. Scott?
Of course, Captain. But it's not like I'll ever have to. Not that I'm ever planning to leave the Enterprise, but a man could do worse than spend his retirement here. A lot worse.
I don't know, Scotty. I don't think I can really imagine you wanting to spend your days tinkering with antiques.
Perhaps you're right, but these things do have their charm.
There are some impressive items in this museum.
Aye, they went to a lot of trouble to find some of these beauties.
I hope the ceremony doesn't last too long. I'm starting to get hungry.
I'm sure it won't be much longer, Mr. Chekhov.
The plaque on the old machine reads, an early experimental transporter. The Murnane 8 was from a time before transporters were safe for travel by living beings. Constructed to be a frequently modified testbed, the Murnane 8 had only a small loading bay. The destination controls were also still in testing, making the use of this transporter as much art as science. An old communications panel. On the plaque, this communications station was removed off the old freighter, Big Bear Running, when that ship was retired from its customary Benchley to Sawcare run. Outdated by today's standards, this system was known for its powerful transmitter and ease of repair. As a side note, the shell of the Big Bear Running was used as a testing target for present models of photon torpedoes. The plaque reads, one of the most widely used and most stable designs ever. The Umber Hubble Mark 84 has been used in far more ships than any other model.
Captain Kirk, I trained on one of these. It's solid as a rock and twice as dependable.
Remind me after the ceremony. I'll talk to the curator about letting you look this one over.
Thank you, Captain. I'd dearly love to put it through its paces.
This EVA suit was worn by Ivan Petrovsky, a late 21st century Terran astronaut, during the famous Commonwealth mission. Petrovsky used this suit to dock with the damaged spacecraft SS Commonwealth and saved the vessel from certain destruction in orbit around Mars.
Petrovsky? Isn't that a Russian name?
I don't think so, Mr. Chekhov.
I sincerely doubt it, laddie.
Really? I would have sworn it was Russian.